Welcome to another episode of the Car Guide. This time we are coming to you from a rather scenic locale. It's located in the United Arab Emirates. It's in Ras Al Khaimah and it's run by the Ritz-Carlton. Well, frankly, you couldn't get closer to nature while not giving up all of your luxuries any better than in this place, because it takes everything that you've ever wanted in terms of luxury. A huge villa, a massive bathroom, massive bedroom, and lots of living area around it, and this lovely personal swimming pool here, and puts you right in the heart of nature. What are we on about nature in an episode of Car Guide? It's somehow that this analogy of having your cake and giving back to nature connects rather well with our episode on electric cars that we are bringing to you this time. So stay with us. We'll take you through 5 new electric cars which will see the light of day in the United Arab Emirates over the next year. We'll touch on a couple of electric cars which have already been there, and more importantly, we'll look at the pros and cons of electrification, buying electric cars, or deciding on whether you need to buy an electric car anytime soon. So stay with us. Welcome back. Now, in the spirit of complete honesty, let me tell you, my name's Raj Warrior. I'm an automotive journalist and I have no great love of electric cars. Despite all this greenery out there and the fact that electric cars have taken on the mantle of being green and earth saving, I live with doubt. I do not really see how electric cars can be a solution. They're a very good stopgap, and with today's technology, that's all they are. Yes, technology will change. Electric cars will become the super efficient automotive transportation that we hope they are. But in the meantime, the main reason we are seeing electric cars come to town, especially in the Middle East, is because governments around the world have had a knee-jerk reaction, largely to the credit, or let's say largely because of the Volkswagen diesel debacle. And technologies have now come to a juncture where companies like Tesla have taken this mantle of electric cars and made it into a very successful business model. The jury is out whether they will actually make a profit out of selling electric cars. They do profit from selling their shares, but let's see further what electric cars bring to the region. In the last Dubai Motor Show, a couple of months ago, electric cars came to the fore. We had 5 excellent examples make their debut in the region. They included the 2nd generation Nissan Leaf, the 2nd generation Chevrolet Bolt EV, the Renault Zoe, which went through a revamp in 2016, the Hyundai Ioniq, and a stalwart player in this field, which is BMW's i3, which paired up with the i8 this time. So if you aren't really in the market for a Tesla and you don't want to make Elon Musk even richer, you've got 5 excellent examples to look at. And we'll go through each of those examples as we go through the show. But in the meantime, something that's really happened for the betterment of electric cars as a genre in the region is that Dubai has taken a leadership step, especially as they're moving into the 2020 phase, for this new technology and the new ability to link green mobility with technology. So electric cars that you buy now will be in a way subsidized by the Dubai or the UAE government. You get exemptions from SALIC, you get exemptions from registration fees, you will get free parking from what we hear, and you get subsidized electricity to charge the car with. What more can you ask for? So let's see how these incentives help propel the market and how electric cars in general fare within the region. We'll go on to seeing the first of the electric cars that we are putting out here, and that's the Nissan Leaf, second generation. All right, let's begin with the Nissan's Leaf. The advantages is a second generation vehicle. Nissan have had some years to iron out the basic issues of entering into a battery operated vehicle environment. So the new Leaf brings technologies and production capabilities that make the car a lot more dependable, a lot more world car friendly. And when we see the car actually come into the market, you have to remember that Nissan has also tied up with Dubai for the 2020 event, which now makes it all the more important that Nissan's idea of intelligent mobility has to succeed. So if you're buying the car, what could be more sensible than a 5-seater hatchback? The car has almost 150 horsepower available. It's got a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack, and it generally charges in between 8 to 16 hours, but more importantly 80% of the charging can be done in a very short time as well. So it makes it a sensible car to buy for use in Dubai if you are going to go and plug it into one of the electric charging points at the mall. But of course, what Nissan has also done with the Leaf is it has brought in ProPilot technologies. It's brought in the new e-pedal, which allows you to use a single pedal for actually controlling acceleration and braking. And it's got an entirely new environment inside, which makes the car a lot more modern. Not quite into the year 2050, but 2020 is here today. And of course, now the other bit about it is that it's a Nissan. So there's a lot of dealers around. You're likely to get very quick support in terms of new battery packs, warranty support, and generally in terms of having a car which will be looked after. And the advantage is in the US, its pricing starts at just below $30,000. The price could change here. And remember that when the price is so attractive, you may not get some of the newest of technologies on board, and you'll definitely not get any of the autonomous technologies which are available. So the Nissan Leaf could be a good buy. Well, the Renault Zoe is not that different from its cousin, the Nissan Leaf. The Leaf is admittedly a bigger version of a hatchback. The Zoe looks a lot more compact, and you can see the difference in the fact that both have almost similar 40-41 kilowatt hour battery packs, yet Nissan's Leaf is looking at a range of just over 200 odd kilometers, 200 to 20 kilometers in normal situations, whereas the Zoe promises almost 400 in European NEDC cycles. Now, in that respect, the Zoe may even beat the Leaf in terms of pricing. Renault has an advantage in the fact that it's already been selling the Zoe in its current version in the European market, and bringing it into Dubai will not be so much of a challenge. In fact, they've already sold their first units, and the Zoe is also going to be available as a rental, where you can pick up the car at a few dirhams an hour. In fact, that brings us to the next topic that we have in terms of electric cars. Does it make sense to own an electric car? Remember, you're going to pay for the hardware, you're going to pay for a rather expensive battery pack, and the battery pack, despite everyone's argument that it's going to last the life of the car, will not last the life of the car. That's why companies have contingency plans. Many companies are actually building business models in Europe and in Japan and very soon in America as well, where older battery packs which have been taken out from electric cars will then go on to have a second life as storage batteries in battery farms, so that they can then unpeak the supplies from things like wind farms, solar farms, where all the current and all the electricity is available when nature provides it and not necessarily when people need it. And BMW, in fact, for the Mini, have already announced a battery farm which will use new batteries, new car batteries, which will first go into the battery farm, be used there, and then will come out into the cars as the cars are head towards production. So that's a rather intelligent use of a resource like a battery, but it really means that you don't necessarily own the battery for the life of the car. Another issue that you will face is that in the initial years, depreciation on an electric car will be rather staggering. Though the car may cost a customer $30,000, like in the case of the Leaf, new, the first year itself will see more than half of its price drop off. And that may prove to be a bit of a turn off for an electric car customer. So our advice, check out leasing options if they're available to you, where you don't actually own the car. That brings us to the third of our contenders. The 2017-2018 Chevrolet Bolt EV is Chevrolet's best attempt yet at an electric car. General Motors were early movers with the Volt, if you remember that car. And the Bolt has now brought production-ready technologies. It brings in a hatchback form and a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's 50% more than either the Leaf provides or the Renault Zoe does. So with 60 kilowatt hours, what it does is it takes the slightly larger form factor of the Bolt and still gives it a range of between 350 to 400 kilometers. Very, very useful. But at the same time, it allows you to recharge that 60 kilowatt hour battery pack in under 9 hours, and that's sensible, isn't it? Overnight. At the same time, the other benefit is that if you are really low on charge and you want to just do that 100 odd kilometer run up or down, it allows you to recharge the car in 30 minutes with, of course, with the accelerated charging available from the pack. So by doing this, what the Bolt is addressing is 1, range issues, 2, recharge time issues, and 3, usability issues in terms of the form factor. Yes, all the cars we've spoken now about till now do have these, let's say, advantages going for them. None of them are really fancy. They're not sports cars. They don't use a lot of power for that quick burst up to 160 or there. They have all the torque of an electric motor, and they have the usability of a regular family hatchback. But where Bolt really hopes to score is, from what we believe, it will be the most competitive pricing of the lot. It hasn't been announced yet. Please check it out at your dealership. But if you manage to get a Bolt at under $25,000, it will be a steal. Other than that, the same caveats apply. If you're buying an electric car just because you think you're saving the environment, don't. In fact, like a friend of mine says, it's better to run an old classic car, renovate it, run it. You're doing more for the environment than buying a new electric car. That takes us to the next car in our lineup, which is the BMW i3. Join us for that. Now the i3, it's got to be interesting. It's a BMW. Now BMW, when it came out with the i series of cars, the i3 and the i8 were meant to really bracket the entire electric segment. So the i3 made for sensible electric motoring, and the i8 was that electric supercar. The i3 is no supercar. It's a small compact hatchback. Its body is made somewhat similar to what Mercedes did with a smart car, where you have CFRP panels outside a aluminium shell. The car is relatively light, and it uses this lightness to its advantage. So the battery pack which it has comes with only around 33 odd kilowatt hour, not like the 40 available for either Renault or Nissan, or the 60 in fact for the Chevrolet Bolt. But what it does is, with that, it provides a range of around 200 odd kilometers in daily driving conditions. And you have to remember that BMW's i3 is actually a very Europe-centric car. So for the European urban environment, 200 odd kilometers is way more than sufficient. Now, the i3 also has a cheat available. You can have how much of range you want, and you've got none of the worries of running out of electricity at any time, because the i3 also comes with a version which has a range extender, in effect a small petrol engine which continuously charges the battery pack when it's running out of electricity. Remember, that's a cheat. It's actually two complete transmissions, though the electric engine is the one which is connected to the wheels. So are you really doing anything for the environment and for nature by doing this? Your guess is as good as mine. But in the case of the BMW i3, what you really are buying into is that statement. Why have we kept the Hyundai Ioniq for the last in the series? Well, first of all, it's the odd man out. It's not one of those traditional electric car manufacturers. It's Hyundai, and it's the only one which is actually providing you with an option of a full sedan. So that makes it almost the heaviest of the cars available. The range is under 200 kilometers as a battery-only vehicle. It's also available, by the way, as a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid. But those would really be cheats along the line of BMW's i3 with a range extender. But staying on the battery vehicle, with the 200 kilometer range, it still gives you 118 odd horsepower on a mid-size sedan, and it also gives you the ability to do that 80% charge, the critical, getting it up to 100 kilowatts of power available in around 23 minutes. Again, sensible timings. So in the case of the Hyundai, price may end up being an advantage. The form factor of the car could be an advantage, and the fact that the overall package may be a lot more affordable, will definitely be an advantage. So that's the last of the 5 cars that you need to look out for. We'd like to wind this up with a statement that we've deliberately kept the Teslas out of this list. Tesla came in a lot earlier than any of these 5 did, but if you keep on top of the news, you know that they're having major production issues with that Model 3 of theirs. And frankly, we don't know where and how affordable Teslas are going to be for the market. We know, of course, that they are statements in themselves. So if you're buying a Tesla, you're someone. That said, the important lessons that we need to look out for are battery technology is still evolving. So while you're getting very modern, very efficient battery packs, remember, you're comparing them with something a decade ago, which was typically a lead acid battery pack. And we now never use lead acid battery packs for traction requirements. The other thing that you have to remember is lithium-ion battery technology is very, very resource intensive. So as companies like Volkswagen, Mercedes, BMW, Toyota, and all of these jump in on the electric car bandwagon, the demand for rare earths, heavy metals, the actual technologies behind this is going to increase dramatically. So while battery technology improves on that parabola, we're going to see that same sort of parabolic shift upwards for the need for resources. And that is unfair on the environment. So we do need to find a via media there. But as a buyer, if you're looking at electric cars, here's some pointers that we could give you. A, don't buy it, or don't buy an electric car just because you think you're doing good for the environment. Assess your needs. Check out the ranges that you drive. Check out the accessibility to charging points. It's not going to help you a lot if you live on the 27th floor of a building and your parking is in the basement and there's no access to an electric point for you to charge the car. You're not going to be able to keep on driving down to a hypermarket and their charging point for charging up the car. So while your friends may buy an electric car, the electric car may not be the most sensible choice for you. The other overwhelming argument against an electric car today is the technology will change. It will render your electric car obsolete with a greater speed than Apple manages to render their older iPhones obsolete. The batteries could be used for a second life in terms of a storage unit, but the car itself is going to have to go back and be recycled and land up as pieces of metal and plastic. So our advice is this is the best time possible for you to make that great purchase of a normal car, something that's got a petrol engine in it, something that's got maybe turbocharging or supercharging to give you that greater efficiency. Go out and buy that dream car, because perhaps it may be the last time you buy a petrol car. Governments are not working in your favor. They're all running under this mirage of an electric future, and governments as disparate as India, Netherlands, the UK have all announced time schedules. They've actually announced windows from when electric cars will be the norm in the countries, and you may actually miss the bus of buying the dream car that you wanted. We'll of course revisit electric cars and options available in a later episode sometime at the end of this year to see how the year has been for electric cars. Till then, happy motoring, and if you really want to do something for the environment, get out and cycle. Don't have these dreams of electric cars. Bye from Raj Warrior.